So here I stand before you. They saved the oldest for last. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I love my life. But I need to tell you also that I love joking about aging, and I just can't resist. I go places, and I always joke that I am the oldest guy in the room, almost always. And and here's a case in point. If you are now under the age of 67, go ahead and stand up. By the way, this is my world. Please have a seat. Part of having show you that, by the way, anybody who's ready to admit they're 67 or older, why don't you just raise your hand, because pardon me? God love you. You are my people. Welcome. The other thing is I wanted you to stand up was to stretch a little, because one of the things I did learn in college that I remember is the brain literally can't absorb what the seat of the pants can't endure. And boy, you guys learn that every single day. So anyhow, let me tell you, being older, I spent a lot of years trying to find people older than me. So I would go to early bird specials, I would try to play bingo, but after a while, you just can't keep that up. The other thing I realized is I suffer from a disease called CRS. Does anybody know what that is? It's can't remember stuff. So I have this only because I need this. And I thought it'd be easier to carry this out and ask for forgiveness instead of getting permission. So anyhow, I've got my little cheat sheet. But let me tell you, at my age, I'm finding that things are starting to fall. My eyelids, my chin, my chest, my stomach, my butt. But the one thing that never seems to fall is my cholesterol. So while my body parts are dropping, cholesterol and blood pressure just seem to keep rising. Anyhow, let me share some interesting facts about being older in America. Number one, 14% of America is over 65. Now, I don't know where you guys are here today, but that's a pretty big number. And out of that, every single day, 8,000 Americans turn 65. If you do the arithmetic on that if every 8,000 people that turn 65 in a day celebrate their birthday with a cake, with a sufficient number of candles that they should have, that's 252,000 candles a day get lit in honor of old people. And if you do the arithmetic further and you think that 8,000 people turn 65 every day times 365 days a year, we're burning over 200 million candles in honor of people turning 65. So for you young guns that are looking for investment opportunities, I'm telling you now, birthday candles and fire extinguishers. All right? By 2050, there will be a projected 600,000 people the age of 100 or older in America. In 2050, I turned 99. So by 2051, I will turn 100, and I want to be invited back. I want to do this again. What really helped shape my life seriously is 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to hear a video speech by a very well-known graphic designer out of New York City by the name of Milton Glaser. 6 years ago, he was 82, working every day, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And when they interviewed him, he said, the problem with aging is that if you look at your life like it's a play, what happens is people start to lose interest in their own third act. And I reflected on that, and that kind of made me sad. Do I really want to be the guy at 50, 55, 60, 65, 70 that starts to lose interest in my own script. And the truth of the matter is I decided I don't want to. At what point should enthusiasm for life that you feel in youth give way? And at what point should disinterest impact your life? It's kind of a sad notion. So on that day, it was like this epiphany that I decided that I'm going to use what I have left, jokes aside, to live every minute with inspiration and joy and love. And I'm not going to give up on that until I have to. I feel good. I exercise 4 or 5 times a week. I try to keep my body strong. I feel blessed because as a public school administrator, I have over 10,000 former students that I have had in my lifetime. And they were all my babies at one point or another. And the truth of the matter is I've now been to over 100 funerals of kids that we've lost to what I call unfinished lives. And it's accidents, it's illness, and most painfully lately, it's addiction. And it's a heartache. But so now, while I joke about being older, I feel blessed to be able to say that I still have my birthday every year. Look at all the young people that just lose that opportunity. An interesting quote, a gentleman by the name of Louis Pasteur. Now, you never come to a thing like this thinking that somebody's going to quote somebody who invented pasteurized milk. But Louis Pasteur said, fortune favors the prepared mind. And while I think there's luck, and I think there's bad luck, the truth of the matter is we're in a position to create our own good fortune by being prepared for good fortune. And I've decided in my lifetime that I'm going to keep myself ready for good fortune because I want to be inspired every day of my life for the rest of my days. I also keep getting told that life is short. I'll be honest with you, it's the longest thing I've ever done. and I want to keep it long, is the bottom line. I want to keep it long. 5 things fill my life with joy beyond words. One is family and friends. And I don't mean to get mushy on you, but I have a wonderful woman in my life. I have, aren't they cute? I have 2 wonderful, wonderful adult children. Linda has 2 wonderful adult children. They, in turn, have spouses that are wonderful people. Linda's mom, who is 90 years old, lives with us, and she literally draws and paints still at 90. And she herself, in her own zany way, is inspirational to me. And then we have these 2 grandsons, these twin boys, energetic 6-year-old boys, who I affectionately call Seek and Destroy, because that's kind of what they do. So I also have great pride in the fact that I still work. I love working. I don't see a day that I'm going to quit working. Right now I'm working as a family therapist. Before that I was a superintendent of schools and a principal. But work exercises my brain, and I treat my brain like it's a muscle. And I'm going to exercise it every day so I don't lose the impact of it. I like giving back. No matter what life looks like, there are people out there that just simply have it worse than we do. And by taking the time to give back, whether it's contributions, time, energy, or even paying something forward, giving back makes life more whole in my eyes. I also love adventure, not physical adventure. I mean, risky behavior for me is kind of eating red meat at this point in my life. But we love to travel. We have been to so many beautiful places, and the chances of traveling more while we're healthy is just exciting. And then the last thing is, I do a lot of artwork. I started as an art teacher, became an administrator, but there's not a day of a week, of a month, out of the year that I don't have artwork going on. And it just kind of fills your soul being creative in ways that are almost hard to put into words. So the last thing I want to tell you before I want to dive into a couple lessons is, when I first thought about this talk, I was really looking to talk to really kind of the young men in the audience. You know, having been a guy for a long time, and having women in my life tell me that men need work, I thought, they say that we start adolescence around 13 and come out of it somewhere around death. I wanted to address some things for the guys in the audience, but then the more I thought about it, I'm hoping that the lessons that I can offer today are lessons that are above and beyond age, above and beyond gender. So if you'll let me, based on 67 years of experience, love, inspiration, and probably trials and tribulations, I'd like to share some lessons for you that I hope will make some sense to you. The first is, I think there are human qualities that we should all protect. I think being kind, I think being caring, I think having integrity should drive our lives. And I don't think there's anything about being kind that makes us weak. And we live in a climate in America, in the world, where kindness isn't as honored as I wish it was. But I think there's a place in the world for kindness without making us weak. 40 years in public education, I used to tell folks, let's be tough on the issues. We don't got to be tough on each other. And you can fight like hell about the issues, taking care of your children in school, making education work, but we don't have to beat each other up. Just stay focused on the prize, which is usually the mission and the issue at hand. I think the world's a better place if we look at things with joy and positivity. We have a family friend who battled ALS for 8 years, and we watched his body and his soul succumb to just this awful disease. And in 8 years, that man never, and when I say never, I mean never complained, never moaned, never got absorbed in self-pity. Until his last day, he had a kind of generosity in his heart and a positive view that defies description. And there's lessons learned from watching people battle through that kind of adversity and staying positive. I've always been a believer that we have a lot of energy, and we're better served if we use that energy to create light with it than to create heat. And I'm not talking about the heat of passion. Passion about stuff is good, but the heat of friction brings no quality to anything we do. So light is, to me, is always a better use of energy than heat. I believe we should all, even in our efforts to find joy and positivity, there's times when there are battles to be fought, and embracing and feeling comfortable with discomfort is an important part of maturing. You know, I've seen people who complain about being devalued by others. I think sometimes circumstances force that against your will, but for the most part, most people who are devalued seldom get devalued without their own permission. I believe that tough conversations, fierce conversations, standing up to adversity is a part of maturing that's important. When I was a young man, I was an administrator, my first year as administrator, in a public board meeting in June. I sat in this board meeting and watched a board, 9 board members to none, vote to use my salary to buy a school bus. So I, that night, was laid off in favor of a school bus. I had a wife, I had a young baby. I went home that night and I cried. I mean, part of what you want to be as a young man is, sure, you want to be sensitive, you want to be caring, but you want to provide. You want to provide for your family, and I felt like I had failed. So the 2 lessons I learned that night was, number 1, no matter how much work I have on my plate, having work is better than having no work. So you will never hear me complain about working hard, because I know what it's like to not have a job, and it's a bad, bad feeling. The other thing I learned is I'm tough. I'm mentally tough enough that I can take on those challenges and rise to see another day. I think listening is important. You know, we talk about good communication, and we have a tendency to think about communication like it's about how we talk. I think the best part of communication, the most important part of communication, is how we listen. I think we all serve ourselves better if we let listening do more of the heavy lifting, and we understand that we serve communication better if we seek to understand before we get busy trying to be understood. Self-reflection, I think, enriches all of us, being mindful. And I just don't believe life is about trying to be better than the next person. I think life should be about trying to be a better person than your former self. And I think as we prepare to face the future, being mindful, being introspective, and trying to be better people is a better use of our time than trying to outdo the person sitting next to us. Who doesn't like Dr. Seuss? He's like my favorite doctor, and I have a lot of doctors, so he's my favorite one. The truth of the matter is, not having a vision or goals in your life is almost like taking a trip where you don't even know where you're going. And while sometimes that's fun, it's not a way to live life. So trying to have a vision for your life, trying to have some goals is important. Truth of the matter is, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So you got to kind of set some priorities and put yourself in motion. When my baby was a sophomore in college, and she knows this story, she's heard it before, she decided to major in art history. Now, at $40,000 a year going off to Boston University, art history made me a little wonky, like, what are we going to do here? And, you know, and I never thought college was about job preparation, but you still want to know that when your kids get out of college, that they have a future professionally. She looked me in the eye and she said, "Pop, what survivors do best is survive, and I'm a survivor." And you know what? She sold me. She majored in art history. She took her knowledge of aesthetics, design, art, and she's built herself a career in jewelry design and fashion design that is just a remarkably, remarkably successful path for her. And she did that with a vision that she had from the time she was 19 years old. And Dr. Seuss knows you can steer yourself in any direction you want to go. Balance matters. You know, we all get caught up with school, work, trying to provide. But the truth of the matter is, protecting a balance in life is really important. And I don't know anybody that works harder than I do, but I also know there needs to be time to play, create, dream, love, relax, keep your body healthy, keep your mind healthy, keep your spirit healthy. And sometimes when balance gets out of whack, that's when we hurt ourselves. So I always try to encourage people that balance really matters in life. In the 10,000 students I've worked with over the last 40 years, a number of them will come back and we'll talk. And one of the things I hear as a recurring theme, and this will resonate with a lot of the folks in the audience, is that you start to feel behind, like you didn't get through college in 4 years, or you didn't get that first job right out of college, or I didn't buy my first house by 30, or I don't have a family yet. And the truth of the matter is, living life like you're playing from behind is a tremendous pressure. And I think if we could look at life more like it's a journey and less like it's a race, I think we serve ourselves best. And this proverb I found fascinating. The best time to plant a tree, without question, is 20 years ago. But if you didn't plant that tree 20 years ago, the next best time to plant that tree is today. So it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to just start. And you can't get what you didn't do from before. All you can do is the best you can do today. Maturity is really based on how we start to embrace things bigger than ourselves. And that's a surefire sign that we're maturing, is when we take on things that are larger than ourselves. And I find that taking care of ourselves matters, but once you build your life in such a way that you are worrying about things bigger than you are, that's when you really reach your truest potential. I talked a little bit before about giving back. Arthur Ashe said, and I'll read it, you make a living by what you get, but you build your life by what you give. And I believe as we get older, that should be a part of who we are and what we do, is making sure that we build a life, and part of that is by making sure we give back. So those are really some of the thoughts that I wanted to share today. If you think about it, there's no real magic. Good human qualities, trying to remain positive, not being afraid of tough conversations because you want to be able to handle adversity. You want to make sure that you're a listener. Listening is just so valuable. So I'll wrap up, but I hope some of these lessons made sense, and I thank you for your time, okay?